Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Apocrypha Apocalypse. It is 2023, and I thought, why not kick off the year by just giving you a little bit of the behind the scenes, what's been going on my end in terms of research and so on, and maybe a little preview about some things that will be coming up in the year. So, fasten your seatbelts, folks, because the Apocrypha Apocalypse begins right now. All right, folks. Well, hey, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to all of you. It's great to be with you. Sorry, I haven't put a video out in a little bit, just with the holidays and uh, illnesses and family stuff. It just couldn't quite make my goal of putting out a video every week. So I'm going to start up again. And I thought, what better way to kick off the new year than to just give a quick video just to say hello, wish everybody well, talk about some of the things I've been working on behind the scenes, and share with you some of the things that I found so far in my own research. So, yeah, let's talk about some of the things behind the scenes. As you know, on this channel, we look at all things Deuterocanon, the Old Testament canon, and why the seven Old Testament books, which Protestants reject as Apocrypha, is actually sacred scripture. Hence the name, by the way, Apocrypha Apocalypse, right? Because Apocrypha is what Protestants think these books are. And the Apocalypse is the unveiling, the revealing. So we're revealing the truth about these books. And over the past year, we've had some really cool videos, got some huge spikes in viewers in regards to some of the issues that we've gone over. And I think it's a very successful year. In fact, as of today, I believe we are only 40 subs away from the 3K mark, which is a threshold I honestly didn't think this channel would ever achieve. It's just too narrow of a channel, right? But I'm happy because I think this is, if not the most important topic for apologetics. It's the most important topic for any Christian who loves scripture is which books belong in the Bible? How do we know? And we looked at all sorts of different evidence. Last few weeks, I've been doing a series on biblical inerrancy, did a deep dive on that. What does it mean when we say the Bible's inerrant? And whether or not that could be used as a litmus test to determine canonicities. I also have done a number of shorter ones on, I guess the theme would be, if such a book like Tobit or Sirach or Wisdom was good enough for Jesus, the idea is, why isn't it good enough for all of us? And so I looked at areas in which Jesus uses the Deuterocanon, and that's been incredibly popular as well. So I'm probably going to continue on that course throughout next year. We're going to look at some other things like we'll just change the series if it's good enough for Paul or what have you, because there are some very important usages or employments of the Deuterocanon in Scripture that is largely ignored in academia, which brings me up to my next subject. What have I been doing behind the scenes? And by the way, this also contributes to my delinquency in making videos, is I've been working on some academic level articles, and I completed two up to this point. I want to do a lot more, but these are articles that I hope I can get published in some journal, hopefully a peer-reviewed journal, and get a little bit more notice of the Deuterocanons in academia, because quite frankly, although there's some very, very good research being done, I think there's some huge blind spots that academics simply are unaware of. And so they miss some very important points. So that's why I want to start doing these articles on an academic level. And so my first article that I completed was the reassessment of the so-called canon in Josephus and against Appian. That's not the exact title. I'm still working out the exact title. But it's a plea for a reassessment as to whether or not Josephus actually gives us a canonical list. And this is how, by far, I think the majority of people, scholars, and on popular level, view Josephus's remarks in Against Appian. I'm writing my article to show that even based on the best Josephine research out there, that it lacks foundation. It lacks foundation. And in fact, I'm going to propose in that article, I have proposed, that there's a far better reading of Josephus that coheres better with the text, coheres better with the surrounding history of the time, and it also avoids numerous tensions that are raised when scholars try to foist a canon onto the pen of Josephus. So that's a scholarly work. Another academic level paper that I just finished, literally, I think it was a day or two ago. Seems like a year. The title is The Implication of Hebrews 11:35b's reference to Second Maccabees, the canonical implications. Which I think this is an area where academia has dropped the ball. It focuses almost exclusively, when it comes to the New Testament, on direct formal quotations. Everything else is assigned to allusions and dismissed, basically. So what I did was I put forward I think a very solid article where I show, based on the overall consensus in biblical scholarship, that no, this reference to Second Maccabees in Hebrews 11:35b actually should have the probative weight, the evidentiary weight, if you will, of a formal quotation. In other words, it should be treated as if it's a formal quotation. While I was researching it, and I did a deep dive into biblical studies for the past couple of centuries, not just recent stuff, but things that were recognized and have been recognized within Protestantism for a very long time. They just didn't connect the dots and put it all together in terms of what are the implications in terms of the canon. So in that academic level paper, I connect the dots for them. So I'm really excited about that. And in fact, as I completed the paper, I was thinking that might be a good program for the rest of the year. I would like to go through some of the arguments that I have already proposed in earlier videos and update them, because I think I now can even give stronger evidence, better arguments for the Deuterocanon while investigating on its academic level the various claims that I put forward on this channel. So brace yourselves, folks, because I want to revisit the Hebrews 11:35b and add even further weight behind the argument. I want to look at Josephus and reassess Josephus. I want to do that with pretty much everything I put forward. I'm always doing this, by the way. I'm always doing more research, reading more material, reassessing whether or not I'm presenting accurately the source material, and then reformulating it. And I think what I've found out by doing this deep dive into scholarship is that my arguments are sound, and in fact, they can be even stronger than how I approached it. So that's what I want to do. I want to revamp some of the stuff that I put out earlier. Still good material, by the way, but I think I can make it stronger and more deeply rooted in even in Protestant scholarship. And the way I do this, by the way, is by getting material and books. So this is something I want to thank all the patrons on Patreon for supporting me. I truly appreciate your support, because, and I say this as a pitch at the end of my videos, and I truly mean this. It's very expensive to get a hold of a lot of this material. Usually the books that are printed are Sigurd Maurer or Brill. They're academic works, and they're extremely, extremely expensive. And so it's through your support on Patreon that helps me not to be a burden on my family, but to obtain some of this material so I could research it, use the material, and have it for even better presentations on this channel. So I truly appreciate that. So I want to give a couple of works that I've recently read. Thanks to your generosity, I was able to obtain. One book is a very important work that I received. It is the Bible in Athanasius of Alexandria, Bible in Ancient Christianity series. This this is a tour de force in the scripture use of Athanasius. I don't think anyone can speak seriously about Athanasius's use of biblical sources without reading this book. The author is James Ernest, and thank God it's in English. Thank God, because he goes through all sorts of levels of usage and quotations and allusions and so on. Very, very scholarly work, very enlightening too. But man, if this was in German or French, I don't know, that would be a really formidable task for someone like me to get through. So thank God it's in English. The things I found in it, folks, reaffirms what I've already put out on this channel. I'm pleased to say that in regards to St. Athanasius's use of the Deuterocanon, in fact, it gives much more specific information. I read through the entire book once, and great stuff. I was going to have some money quotes for you today, but unfortunately, old age is setting in. I put the book somewhere in my house. I don't know where it is, so I wasn't able to retrieve it before going on the video. So I'll find it, and I'll give you the money quotes eventually. But man, what a thorough work. And again, thank you on Patreon for supporting me, making it able that I'm able to pick up sources like that. Truly appreciate it. A book I do have, as I did remember to bring down to the studio, is this book right here. I don't know if you can read it. It's probably backwards. It is Luther at Leipzig, Martin Luther, the Leipzig Debate, and the 16th Century Reformations. It's edited by Maddox, Serena, and Mum. It's put out by Brill. Brill is incredibly expensive, very hard to afford. It's really made for academic libraries. But I was able to pick up this book. There's nothing else like it in English, period. In fact, this book was a real eye-opener in many ways. I didn't realize how much material is available in German on the Leipzig Disputation. It's part of the series on medieval and Reformation traditions. So far, as you can see, I'm about halfway through this book. I don't know if you can see the tag there. Very interesting, gives a lot of background information about conciliarism as a background. Also, some very interesting information in terms of what was happening in academia at the time, which I, quite frankly, didn't know about. I wish I did know about it. I could have incorporated it in my Revolt Against Reality book. Very interesting stuff. Some background information on Luther and especially Johann Eck. And I'm up to the point where it's starting to dive into the debate itself. There are a few money quotes in there that I think are important. I'll save that for a future podcast. Sorry, folks, but I want to make sure I get them all right and read it again in context, make sure I get everything correct rather than go off my cuff. But nevertheless, as you know, some of you might be thinking Leipzig Disputation. What in the world is he talking about? This is the disputation where Martin Luther flip-flops, and suddenly, at this particular disputation, suddenly the Deuterocanon becomes Apocrypha, and it can't be entered into debate to serve as proof. And before that, Luther used it in debate to serve as proof. Here, he doesn't. He switches it. And so I'm looking forward to, I already skimmed ahead just to take a peek at what it has to say about the pertinent sections. But the thing with Leipzig, the Leipzig Disputation, is it's not about indulgences and canon. While the fireworks were about the papacy, papal authority, and the authority of councils. And so That's where all the fireworks are. This book largely centers on that, but it also is important to understand that as background for the Leipzig Disputation. Now, I've read summaries of the Leipzig Disputation in English, but as far as I know, it's only available in Latin. And so I've read the pertinent sections in Latin and have been able to translate that myself. But and this has some sections where it quotes in English, but I wish one day that someone would actually translate the whole of the Leipzig Disputation, especially the second one where he treats the canon, and translate the whole thing into English. I think that would be fantastic. But until then, we just have the Latin to work with and fumble through. And but anyway, great background information in that regard. Oh, I also want to point this out. Oh, Lord. Lastly, I want to share something very frustrating with you. While preparing our video on biblical inerrancy, I take clips from the Michael Licona, Richard Howe debate on biblical inerrancy, which I thought was very well articulated and I think had some fascinating points that they made. Anyway, I believe it's in that debate. I could be wrong. Perhaps it's another interview with Michael Licona. He mentions a 2-volume work done on composite citations in antiquity and composite citations in the New Testament. And so this is like a definitive summary of the use of like block quotations. So you'll have a formal introduction with several citations, usually from the same source, sometimes from different sources. And so over Christmas, I ordered both books from 2 different publishers. And I received volume 1. It Composite Citations in Antiquity, volume 1, Jewish, Greco-Roman, and Early Christian Usages, edited by Adams and Ehorn. Very good book. But when I opened the package for volume 2, I found this book, the same volume. So let me share my frustration. So this was shipped overseas. So it took an extra week to arrive here in the States. And I informed them that volume 2 is actually volume 1, and I ordered volume 2. And so they basically said, send us back the volume and we'll correct it, blah, blah, blah. And quite frankly, I'm not going to go down to the post office during the holidays to send this book, international mail, back to this place to get a refund. So I figured it's worth the money just to get a different outlet, different bookseller, and order volume 2 from them, because apparently there's a mix up. So I do it, and guess what I got back? Volume 1. So just FYI, folks, if you're trying to order the second volume to Composite Citations, apparently somewhere out there in internet land, the ISBNs are mixed. So volume 1 apparently has volume 2's ISBN somewhere out there. I don't know. I don't know where the mix-up is. So now I have a couple of copies of volume 1, no copies of volume 2. And I'm kind of scared to even try to order volume 2. So I'm going to have to figure out some workaround in order to get that. Maybe volume 2 isn't even out there. I don't know. He spoke of it as if it's available, and it is listed on outlets like Amazon. Don't know, folks. But the reason I want it, especially volume 2, is important because it analyzes composite quotations within the New Testament. And by the way, there are quotations from the Deuterocanon, I believe, within some of these composite quotations. So these would be formal quotations of Deuterocanonical books. The only thing is they're not singled out as a distinct quotation, but they're part of a corpus of quotations. But I don't want to speak to that because I'm not sure. I still have to do a lot more research, and I definitely need to read volume 2. So if you could, in your prayers, please ask the Lord somehow to guide me to somehow get volume 2. I don't know. I just don't want to throw good money after bad. And yeah, eventually I will return to books. But I have a feeling they're not going to give me volume 2 regardless. Okay, I didn't do this video to complain. I just want to share that story. It's funny, but it's also expensive too. But I don't know what the deal is there. So if any of you have volume 2, just let me know where you got it from. I'd appreciate it so I can pick up a copy. And I think that's it. So I think there's going to be a lot of exciting things on this channel. I know William Albrecht himself is working on a lot of stuff with Father Christian Kappas, who's also doing some academic level research on the canon. We had him on the show, and David Zavaras as well. He's always doing research and great insights. We got a lot more interviews and other things coming up on the channel. So I just want to thank all of you who have subscribed. Thank you so much for your support. Please hit the thumbs up, the like, the bell, all that other stuff. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you like it, please do. And if you hit the bell, I believe you get notifications when we put out new videos. And like I said, I'm going to start getting back in the routine of at least one video per week, if not more. So thanks for your support and God's blessing on this year. I hope it's a fruitful year and a blessed year for you. So I'm Gary Machuda. Take care. Bye-bye.